Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here today and chair the first panel discussion dedicated to digital heritage in a holistic approach. Holistic approach, which means to give a meaning and underline or highlight the values behind. A good example is digitizing a building is not scanning a monument. A monument is a memory behind, and in the era of the holistic approach, it means the tangible to be linked to the intangible. So to have both together to create the story, the memory, as well as to give a value to the identity. On this panel, we have the honor to have with us together Mr. Anagностopoulos Demosthenis, Secretary General at the Ministry of Finance and Economics of the Hellenic Republic.
Actually, it's digital governance.
I'm reading this, what it's here. Sorry for that. And professor at Harrogobio University in the Department of Informatics and Telematics, a colleague coming from computer science. Professor Georgopoulos Andreas from the National Technical University, well known for his activities in SIBA, the ICOMOS Scientific Committee, dedicated on the digital era of the past, of monuments, and of course, a member of the board of International Council of Monuments and Sites. Stylianidis Evstradios, the Vice Rector of the University of Thessaloniki, who is going to join us later via online, via the web, who is also the chair of the SIBA committee. Kyriazis Demosthenis, Associate Professor from the University of Piraeus, here with us today. Amdidis Angelos from the National Technical University of Athens, Institute of Communication and Computer Systems, and of course, Research Director of the Institute. Di Giulio Roberto from the University of Ferrara in Italy is going to join us via web. Foudos Ioannis from the University of Ioannina, another one colleague from informatics. Zervagis Mikhail, colleague from the Technical University of Crete, Vice Rector of Research and Lifelong Learning. Doulamis Anastasios from NTUA, from the School of Rural and Surveying and Geoinformatics Engineering, and Ronchi Alfredo, who is the rapporteur. He's going to join us via the web, Associate Professor at Politecnico di Milano, and responsible at the Medici Framework program, where he's a General Secretary and responsible on EU directives on cultural heritage. Now, cultural heritage, we discussed already the different challenges existing from the one side, the different kind of distractions, the natural, the human distractions, but on the other side, the mass digitization, which is now currently ongoing, the different techniques available at the time where we don't have any standards to document. And of course, the people who are in charge for the digitization are not well skilled with the high tech. On the other side, we are digitizing every day, but we don't keep a copy of the record. which means there is no system at the moment worldwide so far as the long-term preservation concern. Finally, the revolution that we are facing at the moment in ICT, in technologies like artificial intelligence, crowdsourcing, cloud computing, virtual reality, augmented reality, and the momentum that the last area in which ICT is coming in is cultural heritage. And here is where we are. Digital libraries, digital galleries, digital museums, digital archives, digital monuments, digital sites, and countries are challenged now to move forward, take action, bring a national system to work, of course, to develop a strategy on a short, medium, and long term, and take care that their past, their memory will be well preserved. I will give first the word to Mr. Anagnostopoulos to give his statement. Mr. Anagnostopoulos, the floor is yours. We have only 5 minutes, including our delay, but we will try to be on time, to finish on time. Mr. Anagnostopoulos.
Thank you. I follow your paradigm. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I would like first to add my compliments for the team of NTUA and Professor Moropoulou for the excellent work that they've done for the restoration of the Holy Article of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre as an innovative and interdisciplinary case study. I consider it as of major importance, both in terms of general awareness and interest, and also as a scientific study per se, in terms of quality and scientific level. Now, concerning the digital heritage and what we've done so far, I think that it's best for me to discuss issues concerning our policy and digital actions that we've taken so far in our country. As you know, Greece is a popular destination for culture, geography, and history. We have dozens of UNESCO heritage sites, and we're actually one of the first in rank countries in the world. But the current state of digital initiatives so far is still lagging as a country. We all know that. And behind the creation of digital applications for monuments, archaeological sites, and museums of the territory, we have a number of initiatives that we've taken so far, but we all think that an additional effort is required, both to highlight our cultural heritage and also identify them through the use of digital technologies and connect them with entrepreneurship. This is of major importance, to my opinion. Now, I found no better word to describe this but to follow the digital Bible, which was presented by our ministry and covers 5 years, in the years 2020 to 2024, and give you some of the projects that are under discussion and under implementation so far. Now, we have a number of digital projects and initiatives which actually have strengthened the position of Greece in the map of digital culture so far, and some key examples are the National Index of Intangible Cultural Heritage, the web portal of permanent catalog of the declared archaeological sites of Greece and monuments, the web portal and the digital repository of the Acropolis Monuments Preservation Service, the digital educational platform and the repository, which is named Follow Odysseus, and the web portal for the Archaeological Fund Explorations. At the same time, we have web portals of museums, services, and institutions, and among other things, digitized cultural material related to collections, monuments of local character or special interest. Now, many of these existing web portals have now exceeded their technological limitations and operational expectations, and need significant content updating and technological upgrade per se. So, we have a number of actions that we have adopted concerning the digitization, codification, classification of cultural stock, digital service and application of cultural institutions for the enrichment of natural visit and experience of remote access. You have seen such an example recently, I think, on Libya. Third is the digitization of procedures and registers of the Ministry of Culture, to which citizens and members of the cultural and creative sector have access. And then it's improving quality and interoperability of data and data access. Now, let me give you an outline, just the titles of the projects that, digital projects that are under implementation. There are 16 projects, but concerning digital heritage, it's only a subset of them. And these projects are the following. First is establishment of national standards for digitization, documentation, and allocation of cultural resources with emphasis on 3D digitization. I cannot give you more details on these projects as I have only a limited amount of numbers allocated for my speech. Second is the development of interactive digital services for the promotion of exhibits with augmented and virtual reality. Third, of the projects of the archaeological cadastre, and the management of movable monuments and collections, which relates to also installation of the G-Cloud and functional extensions of the existing systems. Fourth is the creation of infrastructure for the interconnection, remote sensing, and telemetry of areas of major cultural interest. And I've considered of major importance the reconstruction of the Odysseus platform and its connection with the digital platforms of the National Archive of Monuments, the Intangible Cultural Heritage, and the Ministry of Tourism, etc. Then we have two specific projects for the Ministry for the Mount Athos, which is the digitalization of important Byzantine antiquities of the area of Mount Athos, and then of course the digitalization of the cultural heritage of the Church of Greece, which are of course specific projects for these two bodies, and of major importance, of course, as we consider the number of antiquities and cultural items that these possess. So, out of I think 16 projects, to my opinion, there are 7 or 8 of them related to the digital heritage preservation and digitization, and this will be under implementation already. And this is just an outline in a small number of limited time of our strategy for the preserving and digitizing our heritage. So that's all from me, and thank you for your kind interest and invitation, Professor Moropoulou.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anastopoulos. We're going to Mr. Andreas Georgopoulos, well known for his activities in the area of digital cultural heritage. He was one of the first persons in our region, at least, to digitize monuments. And Andreas, if you can share with us a part of your experience, but also at the moment, what is going on here, and how you see the future as a member of the board of ICOMOS.
Okay, Marinos, thank you very much. I've known Marinos for almost 20 years now. We met in Turkey, you remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Never mind. I also thank Professor Moropoulou for the opportunities that she gave me to participate in the Holy Sepulchre and the rehabilitation of the Holy Edicule, and being here with you in this panel. I will start with a comment, and then I will say my opinions about the title of this panel and express my views on that. It was with great pleasure that I heard all these projects that the ministry is undergoing, is running at this time. And I would like to stress that our school, our lab, and NTUA are at their disposal for any advice or consultation they might need. So this is a message for the previous speaker. Now, the title of the panel is Digital Heritage, a Holistic Approach. So I will start with some negative comments. I don't believe that there is such a thing as digital heritage. We could say digitization of cultural heritage, perfectly acceptable. But digital heritage is, are we have or consider as heritage, let's say, the USBs or the floppy disks or whatever, or DOS 2.1. So this is a negative comment. And as far as digital or digitization is concerned, I think that we have glorified this notion. We are in a state of deification of digitization, and I don't think that it solves all our problems concerning digital cultural heritage. It's only natural that with the advancement of technology, we want everything digitized or in a digital form. We carry 1 or 2 computers with us every day. I mean, a smartphone is a powerful computer. So it's only natural that we think that everything should be in digital form. And maybe we are right. But there are some pitfalls in that as far as cultural heritage is concerned. Are we sure that our digitized objects or archives will be able to be read in 10 years' time? Is there a computer now that has a floppy disk drive, or we're not sure that USBs are going to be around for many years? So this is one issue that we have to take very, very care about. So compatibility of digital archives. Sometimes we don't know how to archive the digital files. And there is a problem with size. So this is a new science that is coming now out about big data processing. And we have to be very careful about that and very considerate. Sometimes, a third point is sometimes digitized objects find bad uses. So maybe somebody gets its hands on let's say, a digitized 3D model and reproduces that in a bad form. So this is a bad use of a digital archive. And finally, to finish up with my negative comments, I will say some positive afterwards, is that digitization should not be considered as conservation. So if we digitize, let's say, the Parthenon, and we have it with a micron accuracy, micron is 1,000th of a millimeter, and then something bad happens, and Parthenon is destroyed or is, touch wood, falls apart or whatever, we lost the real thing. And we have it digitized. Okay, that's the only thing. It's like we have a photograph of a monument that is not existing anymore. So we shouldn't consider that digitization is conservation. It's completely different. Now, this is about the first part of the title. The second part is holistic, and now this comes the positive comments. As I understand it, holistic means we digitize, we archive, we record all information about the monument, not only geometry. I'm an engineer, so I'm thinking about geometry first, but also some other information, its state, the materials, anything, okay, or historic information. This is also this also falls into the holistic documentation or holistic approach. So this is a very good deed that we can do about the monuments, about cultural heritage, that we can concentrate in a place, in a digital place, all information about the monuments, or about each motif now of the whole procedure, is that we can combine this information in a very easy way, very differently than before. Before we had some information written on, let's say, papers, on cards, or stored in this place, or in this town, or in this country, and then we had to travel or ask for copies, etc., in order to combine information. Now, this information can be combined very easily in a digital form. So this is a great advantage of digitization. And a second advantage of digitization is that experts who need to study a piece of cultural heritage can do it from a distance. And this was very apparent now during the pandemic years, that people could have access to museums, to artifacts, to all this kind of digitized information from a distance, without traveling, without moving themselves or getting out of their offices, their houses. So this is another great advantage. And the third, I said I'm going to finish with positive things. And the third, according to my opinion, a great advantage is that by introducing or using the digitization in mixed reality environments, in augmented reality, in virtual reality, in serious games applications, we attract the younger generation. As you probably know, now babies are very competent with smartphones and computers. And when they grow up, they're very bored. Even my generation, we were very bored in going to museums and listening to people saying stories about the artifacts, etc., etc. Imagine now that they have these devices and they can play some educational games in the field of edutainment, and now they are educated indirectly into cultural heritage. And we need that because we need to conserve and preserve cultural heritage for the future generations. Thank you very much.
You were on time, and thank you very much. We will come back so far as your comments concerned, but thank you very much. We move to the next speaker, a colleague, Kyriazis Demosthenis from the University of Piraeus, representing a research program, the research program RESPECT, where he's going to tell us a few words.
Okay, so thank you very much. Good morning, all. I would also like to thank Professor Moropoulou for the, I think, unique opportunity to be part of the project regarding the rehabilitation of the Holy Edicule. So it's a panel about digitalization of cultural heritage and how we address in a holistic way the different challenges and approaches that need to be in place in that domain. Let me, start by really being impressed from what Professor Anagnostopoulos said. There are a lot of projects currently in place and, under development about digitalization. But now the question that, you could raise is how do we go beyond that? Right? Professor Ioannidis said in the beginning of this panel, in the opening talk of this panel, that he characterized artificial intelligence and machine learning as the revolution of ICT in the domain. And I couldn't agree more, to be honest. So we have two cases of data, right? And two cases, two types, two classes, I could say, where data bring value of different types. One is the apparent one that says, okay, data and analytics bring business value. And you can think of sectors like retail, where you can do personalized recommendations and amplify the value in that case. There is, of course, a second case where analytics are of major importance. I would say they are critical. An example there would be the e-health applications, right? You have the biosignals that can be streamed directly and then correlate that with your potential health record and raise alerts, perform a risk evaluation in real time and raise alerts. Now, if you step back and you think about cultural heritage, you need to position it in one of the two domains. I would definitely argue that it is in the second because of the importance of cultural heritage assets. So I would think that it is on the second domain, meaning critical. Now, do we have the data to perform analytics to apply artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques? The answer is currently yes, not only because of the digitalization of the different assets, but also because of the number of sensors being deployed in monuments and cultural heritage assets. We have environmental sensors for humidity, temperature, we have laser scans, all sorts of sensors that can provide the data. So what is the challenge? I think the challenge here is twofold. One is how can you use machine learning and AI tools and techniques to obtain actionable information, right? Actionable is the key word here. We want, of course, to perform a risk evaluation, and that's one type of actions, potential actions. The second is how do we do intervention planning in a holistic way, right? To link a bit also with the holistic part of the title of this panel. Now, what do we mean with holistic? With holistic, we have seen also in the project in Jerusalem, there are many different types of disciplines and domains involved in cultural heritage, right? And Professor Georgopoulos already touched upon that. So we have, the state of an asset, we have the geometry of it, architecture, the materials. How can we not simply combine all the data, but correlate them and analyze them in a holistic way? So I think that's the first challenge, while the second one is really targeting all you that are domain experts in this field. So how can we raise the abstraction level for all cultural heritage domain experts in order to provide the tools, in order to ease the use of these tools and make them directly accessible and usable by all of you. At the end, I would conclude that what is probably needed is an end-to-end approach, maybe in the form of a platform that would act as an endpoint for all domain experts to upload the data sets, different types of data sets. But this is not simply a platform that you provide data. It should also incorporate mechanisms that will automate the machine learning pipeline, so from dealing with data cleaning, feature extraction, identifying in an automated way the different algorithms that should be applied on these data sets, and at the end, visualize the results in an adaptive way so that actionable information is directly there. So that's what I think, mostly from an ICT point of view, and going beyond digitalization to analytics that would provide actionable information and insights.
Thank you very much, Mr. Giriazis. And we are moving to the next speaker, colleague Doulamis. where I would like to ask you if you can take a position, continue to this what our colleague Kyriazis mentioned earlier, but also emphasize or underline the image processing as well as the big multimodal complex data.
Καλημέρα από το panel. Good morning for panel. Thanks, Marinos. First to me, Marino. Thanks for this kind invitation, and also for the general chair of the conference, Professor TMM and the other colleagues. You are right that digital heritage is the most important aspect, the digitalization of all cultural heritage, of all the culture. And I need to emphasize in some items that to add value what you have said all or the other colleagues before. The first is, apart from the 3D content that Professor Georgopoulos knows very well that we have applied in our lab, we have also another domain, which is the time. So sometimes we need how the monument is evolved through the time. So we don't need just a 3D, but we need a 4D reconstruction, which is most important. This is more evident if we move in not only for tangible cultural heritage, but for intangible cultural heritage. Andreas and Marinos knows that the intangible cultural heritage is somehow we don't give so great value as is diverse, because the building, a church is nothing. It's just a building, but the actual issue of a church is the mass, is the liturgy, or the actual content of the culture is the dance, is the tangible content, which is most important. So we need to give emphasis on this. And for instance, the 4D modeling is very important in tangible cultural heritage. Suppose you all, if you are going to digitalize the dance, not because you want just to record the dance, but you want to find the geometry of the dance. This is a great challenge, because the 3D content and the 3D geometry imposes great problems in digitalization due to the time, the real-time conditions, etc., etc. Another issue that we have also addressed is the 5D scale, which is the 5D dimension, which is the scale, meaning that we need the 3D model to be scaled up at different scales, and this is also important information because different machines, different users, different applications, different CPUs wants different scales for them. You mentioned about machine learning. Machine learning is the core now. Everybody knows machine learning, and especially with the increase of deep learning, which is a great issue. I remember in 2011, I have submitted a proposal in Greek, for Greek funding, with the title of deep learning. It is not considered so innovative, because it was too early, of course. Nobody knows what is deep learning was at 2011. Now, everybody wants to know about deep learning, about, if you look at the statistics, about 70% of the papers in major computer vision image processing conferences are dealing with deep learning. And I want for this panel to go a step forward. We need, apart from for deep learning, we need something more, which also how to make the results and the outcome of any artificial intelligence tool to be trustworthy. And this is very important, and have three axes. One is to be explainable, to be automatically to explain and their outcomes. So we, especially this for the archaeologists, the cultural heritage researchers, to adopt these tools, because they think that these tools they behave autonomy and so we don't trust them. Okay? So it's very important how to trust them. And there is a great research now about explainability, which gets more and more effort. It's starting from medical science, which of course the most important issue, but it gets more effort now. And another issue is the autonomy. The system should not be, the artificial intelligence tools should not be autonomous in terms of Terminator, if you know the movie, Terminator 1, 2, 3, 4, that the robots do everything they want. So we should make the system, the machine, to do what we want, not what they want to do. Okay? So the autonomy in terms that they should not be autonomy in terms of the humans. And of course, we need to take into account all the social and legal and ethical aspects in terms of the ownership of the data, in terms of how we're going to make safe and secure if we're going to, for instance, to flight of a document, not only safety for the people, but also safety for the document, and et cetera, the legal framework, and to constrain all this to this. So there is, first of all, I was very glad because I was part of the restoration of the Holy Sepulchre Church, not so as a co-op, of course, member, but for the digitalization part, which is, of course, is not the core issue for this. But we have some projects, for instance, apart from Respect, which is also with Professor Kyriazis, is the project AI, which means always in Greece, in Greek, and to have sustainable cultural heritage in all its entity, and also some projects dealing with intangible cultural content. So I need to just to emphasize in the above mentioned aspects, which for me are very important and will pave new ways in digitalization and in holistic approach in the analysis. Thanks. Ευχαριστούμε.
Thank you very much, Tasso, for your statements. Very important points. We'll move into the next contributor for our panel, colleague Amdidis Angelos, a professor of the National Technical University of Athens, who is going to join us from abroad via WebEx.
Yes. Okay. So I would like to thank you, Mr. Ioannidis, for the introduction, and also my sincere thanks to Professor Moropoulou, both for the invitation, but also the organization of such an important and interesting event that addresses, between other things, the important issue of digital heritage. Today, I would like to touch mainly upon the issue of climate change, its effects to cultural heritage sites, and the solutions that can be provided by digital heritage tools and concepts. Climate change is, between other things, also a huge challenge for the preservation of the tangible cultural heritage of our countries, but also of many other countries. Climate change, ravages of time, intense geological phenomena, and accidental extreme weather conditions have a significant impact on historical areas hosting cultural heritage sites. There are some key considerations here that we need to do. The deterioration of cultural heritage sites is one of the biggest challenges in conservation today. Aspects such as building technologies, materials, structural responses, preventive measures, and restoration strategies, resilience, and adaptation methodologies are in order and must be considered. It is a difficult issue to assess quantitatively and qualitatively the impact of various climatic and other parameters on the cultural heritage sites. And while there are limited strategies on climate change related issues and absence of an overall resilience and reconstruction planning framework for historical areas. In research and technology level, there are attempts to create digital solutions that will assist both in preservation of historic monuments and in their effective rehabilitation as part of smart cities and smart communities, since the climate change and the extreme weather events pose a particular risk to our cultural wealth, especially in recent times when environmental threats carry a strong human footprint. World heritage sites are becoming increasingly vulnerable. So there is the need for providing a holistic solution for improving resilience and sustainable reconstruction of historic areas. And this is where innovation and technology can play an important role and have tremendous impact. Innovative tools and technologies can be used during research and technology development. For example, I can mention climatic models, models of extreme phenomena and their effects, Copernicus services, terrestrial and satellite images, the use of sensors and drones and many other things, in order to create mathematical models for forecasting. Many research and innovation projects, I can give you an example of the European Union Horizon 2020 co-funded project Hyperion that my team is coordinating, attempt to bring together state-of-the-art technologies, services, and digital innovation tools. I can mention here, for example, advanced machine learning and the rest of many other tools, and combine them at the end of the day into one system in order to better understand the effects of climate change on the archaeological sites and cultural heritage monuments, provide a tool for better decision making and more effective and efficient reaction, and help the professionals involved properly adapt their policies and activities by deploying sustainable mitigation plans and efficient resilience and reconstruction planning for historic areas in the future. Simulations can also provide a great tool for training and preparation of users to respond to several extreme climatic scenarios and mobilize local cultural communities and citizens to assist in identifying potential risks and raise awareness of issues related to the preservation of local and European and worldwide, actually, cultural heritage. Collection of this type of data through different sources like sensors, drones, or satellites is important to be disseminated to the correct players, professionals responsible for the management and preservation of local tangible cultural heritage assets, but also professionals with a key role in conservation, restoration, and in safeguarding cultural heritage so as to support better preparedness, swifter and more effective response, and contribute to the sustainable reorganization of the historical regions under threat. But it's also very, very important, I would say similar importance, to be disseminated to the general public in order for all to better understand the dangers and threats to tangible cultural heritage and be aware of the effects of extreme weather conditions, time wear, and severe geological phenomena on monuments, archaeological sites, and cultural sites of interest, and offer at the end of the day assistance supporting further citizen engagement. Using going back to the big picture, and I find very interesting the concept of an emerging digital cultural heritage that UNESCO recently introduced, referring to this kind of information increasingly created digitally or converted into digital form from existing analog resources. Using computers and related tools, we are constantly creating and sharing digital resources, information, creative expression, ideas, and encoding knowledge. This kind of digital cultural heritage, computer-based materials of enduring value that should be kept for future generations are of great importance. Not all digital materials are, of course, of enduring value, but those that are require active preservation approaches. The concept of digital heritage is likely to become more important and more widespread over time. Increasingly, we see individuals, organizations, and communities using digital technologies to document and express what they value and what they want to pass on to future generations. Making sure that our digital heritage remains available is thus a global issue relevant to all countries and communities. At the same time, we all know that preserving emerging digital heritage demand new preservation policies and agreements, since traditional preservation policies as we know them will soon be no longer relevant. A new preservation paradigm is evolving in the digital domain, and coordination, I would say, is very crucial at this point. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Angelos, for the very important statements. Good references to the climate change, simulations, risks, awareness, assistance support, and so on, preservation, and so on. We move to the next speaker, again from abroad, an external one. Our colleague Stili Saloniki and the chair of the International ICOMOS Scientific Committee on Heritage Documentation. Stratos?
So thank you so much, Marinos, for the introduction. Warm thanks also to Professor Moropoulou for the kind invitation to participate in this panel as well. I would like also to share my my experiences, and I would like to say that these are coming through the while studying this issue during the first lockdown. So I was trying to realize what were the three main challenges. What are the challenges for this period we're facing all across the world? And I would like to say a few things about three main challenges that, in my point of view, and one of these is the holistic documentation. So in my point of view, the first one is the ethical challenge, the ethical excellence, let's say. The second one is how the need of the societies in order to mobilize the archives that are there in the museums, in the archaeological sites, everywhere. And of course, how do we start working with holistic documentation? With respect to the ethical excellence, I think that this is a time to, as a scientific community, and of course with the participation of the international organizations as well, the national committees, and of course the states, to define a model of excellence with respect to an ethical framework which is designed for, let's say, all the practitioners, the researchers, the end users, the policymakers, the enterprises, everyone that is interested in cultural heritage. So we have to define the role of ethics in our professional life and discuss about authenticity, credibility, integrity, trust, transparency, which has to do with the use of data. We have to involve the stakeholders, academia, research, government, local and regional authorities, of course, intergovernmental organizations, for profit and for non-for-profit entities as well. And this is one of the building blocks that I would like to discuss with you. The second one is the big challenge of how do we mobilize. I'm not sure if this is the right word to use, but let's call them the hidden archives. And that was a need that came up through the pandemic and the continuous lockdowns that we had, with many of the museums facing so many problems without visitors. So how can we mobilize these archives that are hidden in so many places across the world in order to come to the light, to a wider audience, from west to east and from north to south? And really, there is a need for all international organizations, and as SIPA as well, we will start discussing that on how can we push more on bringing more to the light these hidden archives. And of course, the last building block, which is the main target of this panel to discuss, is the holistic documentation. Holistic documentations means that we acknowledge by default that we are interested in intangible and tangible attributes of an object, of something that we are interested in to document, to conserve, to preserve, and belongs to cultural heritage. So it's cultural, it's natural, it's tangible, it's intangible, it's artifacts, inherited traditions, contemporary practices, everything that is can be embraced, but on what we call cultural heritage. I think Andreas Georgopoulos mentioned a very good example on that, on how can we deal not only with geometrical attributes, but also with all other attributes that does not belong to this basket, let's say. So we're talking about images, we're talking about videos, models, drawings, archives, sounds, everything that can contribute to the documentation, the holistic documentation of an archive. But for this, I think the most important thing is to discuss also the data ownership, which is a big problem always in this type of projects, like the one that the National Technical University, this fantastic project they developed with the leadership of Professor Moropoulou. So thank you for your attention, and thanks once again for inviting me to this panel.
Thank you very much, Stratos, for your contribution and valuable comments. We're moving to the next colleague, member of our panel, Professor Roberto Di Giulio from the University of Ferrara. Don't know, he's online.
I wish to, of course, I wish to thanks Marinos for inviting me in this, to take part in this panel. This is a very important panel. And of course, many thanks to Antonia for inviting me again in this very important event that every year takes place in Athens. I just want to say a few words about some points that have been said before, and there are two issues that the other speeches faced. The first one is the problem of standardization. Marinos introduced the panel mentioning the aspect of standards in the digitization strategy. And the other one is the digitization as a way to preserve, to improve the accessibility and to improve the understanding of cultural heritage. Both these issues are related to one important problem, one important challenge, that is this is strictly related to the standardization, and it is the interoperability of data. And when I say interoperability, I mean the possibility to have interoperable 3D models and digital objects, and the possibility to have an interoperability between information, between data. In the previous pages, I've heard something about the possibility to improve the data that we have in extending this data over the geometrical data, but including all the elements that can be connected to the metadata of the digital objects and specifically the 3D model, or let's say the digital twins of cultural heritage sites and monuments. But let's make a very short step back. 1 month ago, we have read a message from Thierry Breton. Was a message about how to preserve the cultural heritage, European cultural heritage, using the digital strategies. And the same day has been published a document exactly on the 10th of November by the Commission with Commission recommendation about the data space for cultural heritage. And an annex of this document explained how many digital assets should be collected and made available from the European cultural heritage. It's a very impressive number because in the Annex 1, I can read that the 3D digital assets expected by 2030 are about 16 millions. Of course, 16 millions include a lot of objects, and but the 3D, a number related to the 3D, because the total objects in that table is about. For example, by 2030, the number of records should be 18 millions, 82 millions. So, but coming back to the 3D models, to the digital twins, that is the issue that Thierry Breton focused in his message. It's a very ambitious target. And that's the target about the so many millions of digital assets by 2030. And it's a very hard challenge because how can we deal with this challenge? How can we deal with it? How can we get this target? The main problem, as we know, and this is the problem that we face it in the Inception project. It was a project ended in developed by 2015 to 2019. Marinos was with the University of Cyprus was one of the partner of this project. What is the problem? What is the challenge? The problem is that having this model with information that go over the geometrical information, because you know that geometrical information can be taken using the cloud of points and the laser scanner, the capturing projects, the capturing methodologies with laser scanner are very fast and cheap now. But what is not fast and cheap is the translation from the geometrical information that we can take easily now with the 3D scanner, laser scanner, and with the cloud of points. But when we have to translate this geometrical information from the cloud to the 3D model, the process is not so easy, it's not so fast, it's not so affordable. Because what we realized in Inception project was that the best way for collecting the metadata connected to the object and for having to have a really complete 3D model of cultural assets, of cultural sites, of the monuments, also of an object, for example. But the complete set of information that we can collect, including the geometrical ones, but also all the other information related to the materials, to the history of the objects, to the information, historical information, the connection with the archives, connection with all the other intangible information that very often are linked to the model, to the site. The best way is to have the possibility to manage a model made by objects. And what we made in Inception, but we not only in Inception, also in other researches has been done, is to use the beam methodologies, beam technologies that make possible to include into each object of the model a lot of information, and to transfer using IFC files this information in a very interoperable system and methods. I mean that IFC can be taken and moved to other way, for example, for using the viewer or using the platform for managing, for handling this information. So, and this is not so fast, and this is not so. Making a 3D model using beam methodology is not so fast, it's not so easy. So the challenge now, and what is the main topic of several researches that is ongoing in this period, is the possibility to improve the methodologies and technologies, so-called scan to bin. I mean, the possibility to translate, to move the information from the cloud points that can be taken easily and in a fast and affordable way directly to the beam model. In that way, if we get this target, we can have the possibility to have, if we get with this target also using a different level of complexity of the beam model. If we really will have this kind of methodologies, we can start to think to the possibility to produce, to improve, to implement so many 3D models by 2030, has been expected by the documents from the European Commission. And this new research is very promising and interesting. And this is something that is one of the main issues that we are facing, for example, in the 4CH research. The 4CH research is a project to design and to create the European Competence Center of Cultural Heritage. We are cooperating with several groups. One of these groups is led by Marinos, for example, and they worked in the last year on the problems related to the standardization of the digital objects and the 3D models, for example. So I think that the next challenge to face is how to improve what happens from the two main, the most important step in the procedure for the creation of the model, of 3D models and digital twins, from capturing data to construction of the model. In the middle, we have the data processing protocols that have to be standardized, have to be implemented in a fast way and in an affordable way. Because the very big challenge is how to make possible to have reliable models that can be done not only for the big sites, very important sites, like in the past we had some problem with monument at risk, but very important monuments generally have the resources for creating a very complex model. But there are a lot of minor, let's say, minor sites where the resources for digitizing, not only the geometrical aspect, but for digitizing and for collecting all the information and translating this information in the digital twin is not so easy to be done, because the costs for doing that is very, very high. This is just the 2 points that I wanted to highlight, and I think I have taken my time. I've used and consumed all my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, also Roberto, and congratulations for your project. I think this afternoon, according to the statement of Fulgencio from Monday during his intervention at the conference, you have an event, a very important information event, and I'm sure those who are interested can join you even in a last minute registration. We are moving to our next speaker, who is also outside of the room remotely. Professor Zervagis Mikhail from the Technical University of Crete, Vice Rector. Mikhail?
Okay, now it's better, huh? Thank you very much, and I am honored to be here with you. Thank you very much, Professor Marinos Ioannidis, and thank very much Professor Moropoulou for organizing this very important event, which has essentially two pillars. One is the digital, and the other one is the heritage. Both of them are very complex, and the interrelationship is quite important and challenging. In terms of the digital, I would say that we have two directions. One is the knowledge, and the other one is the data approach. The knowledge relates to all the sciences that we have, the models that we have, the geometric models that we have, the modeling of all the cloud points for generating the 3D models. And on the other side, we have the data aspects, which relate to the machine learning techniques, to the deep learning techniques that are becoming more and more significant to such applications. And I think one challenge is to bridge the gap between these two approaches and basically utilize information, utilize knowledge along with data in order to build models that are based not only on our previous knowledge and expert, let's say, impressions, but also the data that we gather with all the type of sensors that our respected colleagues mentioned before. On the other side, we have the aspects of heritage, which has all the monuments, all the structures, but also the cultural aspects which relate to what we call heritage. And in order to capture all of this and relate these pieces of information, we need to build models that are based also on ontologies, which can relate on an expert basis the aspects of, let's say, cultural pieces of information with all the other pieces that we have available for analysis. And then a third part is the preservation of all these, which has to do with standardization of data and information. And all this pose the challenge in holistic approaches, which requires a lot of interdisciplinary research in order to achieve, let's say, a good result at the end. And thank you very much for this address that you gave me the opportunity to express. Thank you.
Thank you very much also for the very important comments. I liked a lot couple of words, knowledge in relation to data and the new models to be developed for ontologies and semantics and so on. Thank you very, very much for your valuable contribution. We are moving to the next speaker, colleague again coming from informatics, Foudos Ioannis from the University of Ioannina.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Ioannidis, for the introduction. I would like also to congratulate Professor Moropoulou for organizing this event for the second time that brings together esteemed colleagues, practitioners, and policymakers from around the world. This is very important for cultural heritage and for ICT and cultural heritage. I will. We started from 3D reconstruction initially, from our group on computer graphics research. And we are working on computer-aided design, additive manufacturing, 3D reconstruction, visualization, and rendering. And recently, we have been working on virtual reality and other issues on ICT for cultural heritage, and also on issues of deep learning for computer graphics and CAD that I think are very important for the future development of ICT and cultural heritage. Okay, so here I have made a plan of the digitization and other issues of and ICT and cultural heritage. This is the tangible cultural heritage where we have monuments, archaeological spaces, and artifacts, paintings, sculptures. Here, as previous colleagues have mentioned, we have the problem of digitization of documents, paintings, but mainly we have the issue of 3D reconstruction of objects and artifacts. This has been partially solved, at least for exhibitions, but for the accuracy of the cloud point, as we say, because in 3D reconstruction, until now, we usually take a representation of the surface of the object, not of the entire object. So there is an issue here. What do we do when we have complicated objects and we want also to reconstruct the interior of the object? So for graphics, as we say, just for exhibits and museums, it may be for digital museums, it may be okay to have a cloud point and textures, but for experts, for archaeologists, and also for having a very accurate 3D reconstruction, we are not yet at this point right now, especially for the interior of the objects. So we need all this. We need also digital repositories, as other colleagues have already mentioned. And this can be shown in digital museums and exhibitions. We have, on the other hand, we have restoration and preservation, conservation tools and techniques, which is something different. This is done by monitoring, data collection and fusion, and data analysis. And this is for the tangible heritage. And down here we have the intangible heritage. Here we have oral sources, written sources, documentaries. Again, the digital repository, we may have customized views of this. And we have the intangible, in the intangible cultural heritage, which is traditions, customs, legends, festivities. Then there is the problem, as already, for example, Professor Stylianidis and has already mentioned that there's and also Professor Di Giulio has mentioned there is the problem of connecting, of linking tangible and intangible heritage. We may have ontologies, knowledge graphs. We have also the problem of metadata, content indexing and searching, which is very difficult. We are not there yet to have an automated way to create indexing, metadata, and searching. So more or less, that's the problem. That's the problem as I see it right now. Of course, there are many things, many parts missing in this high-level scheme that you see here. So I will give an example of some of how we have handled some intangible, how we have handled intangible heritage. We have 3 examples here. We have these 3 projects. Project Explorer, which is exploring the cultural heritage of cross-border region of Greece and Albania.
Can you hear me?
And this is linking. Excuse me, we have a. Let me close my voice here.
Yanis, sorry for interrupting you, but we don't have so much time.
And here we have, we are linking oral sources with documents that we are creating customized documentaries through an interactive mobile app. That's just a paradigm of how we can handle of revived traditions with other with graphic methods like immersive virtual reality. Project Virtualand is an immersive virtual experience for cultural and natural heritage sites. Here you see the we have revived the open market of Ioannina in the interwar period. The open market in Ioannina was active from 19th century up to the 60s, 70s. Then it was not active anymore. So we have we have revived this, and this is used. We have used the immersive virtual experience. We are reviving also history, like this, legends, traditions, and customs with immersive virtual reality in the context of this project. And we have created, we are also creating hotspots for immersive VR viewing. The technology right now is not for, in a few years, we may have very good immersive virtual reality through our smartphones and very inexpensive devices, but we are not there yet. Maybe in a couple of years this will be possible. Thank you very much. There's also another example that I have here for reconstructing traditional jewelry for additive manufacturing. Here is also another example of intangible heritage, because we are not doing a 3D reconstruction. We are reconstructing based on the technique of craftsmen we are reconstructing traditional jewelry using it. So thank you very much. Here is some additional information.
Thank you very much, Yannis. Very, very important information and good examples, especially from the area of jewelry. We're moving to the last one contribution from our colleague from the Politecnico di Milano, from Italy, Professor Ronchi Alfredo. Alfredo, even if you are the rapporteur, you have also the time to take a position, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me put down the volume here to avoid echoes. Yes, so basically I would like to spend a couple of minutes to recap and to consider what emerged from this interesting panel that basically summarized the achievement that were collected since the beginning of the, let's say, adventure in the field of using ICTs for cultural heritage in the last couple of decades. Let's say, I heard about the use of virtual reality, the use of the transformation of cloud points into models, and the idea to use the BIM system or the cultural heritage BIM to improve the quality and the added value of models, and this sounds very nice, as well as the idea to do not consider only geometrical data as the objective of digitization, but even, of course, to collect information from different sensors that range in between the satellites and the drones down to very tiny areas explored by specific sensors in ranging in between the field of humidity, temperature, stresses, and more. So this is very interesting. So because now it seems we are opening up a little bit the range of applications in the field of ICTs for heritage. For quite a long time, this was limited. Let's say I was involved in the early ideas of virtual museums, for instance, in 93, 94, the beginning of the use of web technology. And that time, there were some initiatives carried out even by the European Commission, such as the MOU for multimedia access to Europeans' cultural heritage. And a similar document like the one that was presented by one of the speakers concerning there was the Julia thing, concerning the forecast about the number of digitized objects in the next 10, 15, 20 years. Now it seems the range is 60 million digital assets in 2030. And at that time, there was something similar in terms of including objects and content from museums. The first step was about 240 museums, and then the projection was about to double this number in less than 5 years. Unfortunately, this didn't happen in reality, but it was a good chance to start this tour toward a new approach to the use of technology that is basically a tool to support and to help experts in the field of heritage in order to increase their knowledge and to follow the different potential issues. One is to promote heritage, to improve knowledge, to disseminate and extend the number of people interested in this specific field. On the other side, there's research, there's the opportunity to acquire better knowledge about the history, the functions, and even this that is very relevant, what I heard today, about the idea to connect and create a tight link in between physical heritage and intangible heritage. That is, since the, let's say, discover or the election from UNESCO of intangible heritage, one of the relevant assets, one of the interesting things to how to, on one side, protect and transfer to future generations such kind of fragile heritage that is the intangible one. And on the other side, how to connect this with the, let's say, historical concept of heritage that is the material, so the physical one. So I think that all of them are very interesting points that were pointed out on the occasion of this panel. Interesting as well, what I heard about the need to improve ontologies and semantics in order to connect together these aspects, as well as the evolution of the concept I mentioned before, so the BIM models, the cultural heritage BIM models, that was suggested a long time ago by the director of the Schönbrunn Castle in Austria. The incredible idea at that time, let's say crazy in between brackets, was to digitize point by point, millimeter by millimeter, the objects. And this was even involving the last thing I heard in this panel. So the idea to consider even the interior, the inside of the object, assigning all the different properties to each of the, let's say, atoms of the specific object. That time it was incredible. Nowadays, dealing with big data and big data analytics is not so crazy. And this idea to move from the skin, so the aspect and the geometrical shape of the object toward the interior, the material part of the object, seems to follow more or less this approach. So basically, my contribution was originally devoted to tourism, cultural tourism, because I'm working tightly with the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg since a number of years on this specific topic. But because my background was originally in computer graphics, virtual reality, and later on other topics, I was really interested in attending this panel. I thank you very much. I prepared a short resume about this. I will transfer to the organization. Let me thank in conclusion both Professor Ioannidis for the chairing of this, and of course my friend Antonia Moropoulou for this incredible force to organize this international big conference offering a holistic approach on the use of ICTs for culture. Thank you, Tonia. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much, Alfredo. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the contributors. I would like also from my side to say a few words. 21st century, that's the digital century. European Union, that's the time of the digital transition that we face. That's here where we have the big investment, and of course our area of work, digital heritage, which we are challenged to take it and do what? Create a tool for growth, economic growth, for new jobs. And what we are facing now, we are facing this big multimodal, we heard also from Dassos, multi-dimensional, complex data structures coming from tangible and intangible assets to be processed, to be archived, to be preserved, to be correlated, yeah? So that we can extract out of these structures knowledge and values, the lesson learned, and never do it again, or even in the future do it better. to improve the future, to learn from the past and improve the future. For that, to be able to do it, we need tools. We need the ICT. We need the so-called digital machines to help and support us. I would like also to have access to the Chinese culture, but I don't know Chinese. Yeah? But we have digital machines translating us. And that's now about the authentic translation, and that's all about the values, and that's all about the identity. Yeah? And of course, it has to be a machine, not an autonomous, to do whatever the machine wants to do, on a time when in the area of digital cultural heritage, there are no standards, not at all. How to digitize, no standards. How to archive, no standards. How to preserve for the long term, and so on and so on. So long-term preservation. Andreas, you mentioned digitizing not for conservation. I wish to have in front of me my parents to make a digital image digitization, not to conserve them, but to preserve the copy, the digital copy, to let my grandchildren, also your grandchildren, to remember why they exist and what I learned from them so that they can do it better. And that's the digital, let's say, transformation. But it's a preservation, it's not conservation. And it's extremely important. So we, at the beginning of the 21st century, at the digital transformation time period, we face great challenges, especially the area of computer sciences, to develop not only standards, to document the grammatic, the semantic rules, to document the story of the past when we digitize it, but to handle the knowledge, to preserve it also for a long time period, and of course at the same time and in parallel to skill the current people in charge of all this content to handle the results of the revolution, of the ongoing revolution in ICT. You buy a smartphone today, and in a couple of months, there is the next model out, and you want to change it, and you don't even know exactly to use, 100% to use the machine that you bought expensively. So that's from my side, and I saw there is a, no Rocco, but there is from the gentleman. Please, if you say your name, take your microphone, please.
Yeah, my name is Shmuel Groag. I'm from Bezalel Academy of Art. I want to follow Andreas' remarks in your beginning of the critical side of the digital area. I think this is the big challenge, to challenge the alienation that all this field of the digitalization of heritage is producing, and this is a big challenge, I think, to go back to values and to the cultural significance of sites using the digital area. So I think this is the big challenge in front of us, because otherwise we are getting far and far, and maybe all this field of digitalization will be very criticized because of this alienation, because of getting so much far from cultural significance in its basis. And I see that you agree with me. Thank you.
Just this investment and effort are just in vain, spending money for nothing if you do not preserve mid-term, not only long-term. And we know from history only ceramic materials are able to preserve on long time. Stone, clay ceramic, and some precious metals, maybe glass. And I think that the next step will be very much on this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rocco. Any other comments? Last one, statement? No? So then I would like to thank again all my colleagues, Andreas, Dimos, Tassos, also all the others who join us remotely. It is indeed the digital era a big challenge in the area of cultural heritage, but a challenge also for growth, economic growth and new jobs. And that's all about for the preservation of the past. Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you.